Hey guys, hope you're doing well today. Last week I gave you a challenge to be practicing reading your Bible. Did you jump into that? How did you go? Either reading Mark or 1 Peter or something else? How did you find it? It's one of those things that we've been talking about this term as things that God's people do to help them feel connected with God, to help remind them of the story, the good news of Jesus, and to help them keep following Jesus in their everyday lives. So how did you go? How was your practice of reading the Bible last week? Well, today we're going to talk about another one of those things that Christians have done throughout the centuries to help them feel connected with God and keep following Jesus. Also, probably no prizes for guessing what our second thing is. It's prayer. We're going to talk about prayer today. I think prayer is often one of those things that's quite scary, especially as we just start praying or as people start following Jesus. It's kind of intimidating. We don't really know how it works or how to do it or what it's really all about. But prayer, I think, is actually an incredible gift of God for us. We have access to God just by speaking, just by talking to Him in really normal, everyday ways. Prayer is just talking to God. It's like having a conversation as we would with one of our friends. That's how we get to pray. But we're going to look at a passage together today where Jesus talks to his disciples about what prayer is, how to do it, and how not to do it. So let's hear what he has to say, hey? Why don't you go grab your Bible? I'm going to read for us from Matthew chapter 6. So open up. This is Matthew chapter 6, starting at verse 5. This is Jesus speaking. He says, "When you pray, don't be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by people. I tell you the truth, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. For your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like the pagans, for they think they will be heard by their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask Him. This, then, is how you should pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our debts as we have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one." So in this passage, Jesus calls out people who are praying badly. He says people go out onto the street corners and kind of shout out their prayers. Jesus says, don't do that. You don't need to make a big show of your prayer. Just go somewhere by yourself and talk to God. You don't need people to watch you do it. You can just do it on your own. You and God can just have a chat together. And then he says, you don't need to have all these fancy words and have it all kind of worked out perfectly and poetically and beautifully. He says, God's not interested in how well you can say what you want or what you're feeling or what you need of Him. He already knows those things. All He wants for us is to be in relationship with Him, to just have a chat. So you don't need to worry about how you say it or what you say. So other parts of the Bible even talk about the Spirit transforming the groans of our hearts into prayers to God. God just wants us to be in relationship with Him. He doesn't care about people seeing it or it being really fancy. He just wants us to come before Him, to ask Him of stuff, to just tell Him what's going on in our worlds, to ask Him to do stuff in the world. God just wants us to be in relationship with Him. And that's why it's one of the things we're looking at. Being in relationship with God is really crucial to know Him better, to help us keep following Him. In that second part of the passage that I read, Jesus teaches His disciples what's come to be known as the Lord's Prayer. It's probably the most famous prayer throughout all of Christian history. And that's the prayer, that's my challenge for you guys this week. This is the passage I want you guys to learn, and I want to encourage you to practice praying by using that prayer this week. Why don't you pray it every day this week? And it's a bit weird. There's some things in there that are a bit hard to understand, maybe words that we don't normally use. So why don't you have a chat with the people in your bubble, try and understand what is Jesus saying in this prayer, and why are these good things for us to be praying? Guys, prayer, it's access to God. It's how we get to connect with God, be in relationship with Him. It's chatting to God, just as we would be chatting to our friends. So why don't you practice this week? Practice talking to God. Guys, I'll see you again for game time on Wednesday, but also get your parents to check their email because we're going to do a physically distanced amazing race on Friday the 12th. So check your email for details of that, and we'll see you soon.